Harrow's name as a stand would be Judas Priest, named after the British metal band of the same name. Its stand user is Lion Allard, Harrow's Protoframe counterpart. Judas Priest mainly functions as a support stand, meaning that it primarily focuses on protecting and strengthening its user and their allies, to protect itself and its comrades. Most of the time, Judas Priest will use its Thurible to block and absorb any incoming damage towards them. It may also willingly flay itself, and therefore its user, with its Thurible to empower its allies, while also absorbing the self-inflicted damage into said Thurible. And as an attack, Judas Priest can cast a wave of energy that chains enemies from where they stand. As a last resort, it may even physically attack foes with its Thurible. Finally, with enough damage absorbed, Judas Priest can release it all around itself in a cyclone of energy, which renders itself and nearby allies completely invulnerable with immense power. Wisp's name as a stand would be Black Hole Sun, named after the song of the same name by the American rock band Soundgarden. Its stand user is Marie LaRue, Wisp's Protoframe counterpart. Like the last stand we covered, Black Hole Sun is also a support stand. However, it does have more offensive capabilities than the previous one. To defend and empower its allies, Black Hole Sun can summon reservoirs that bolsters their health and speed. It also uses abilities that confuse and stun the enemy, such as casting a spectral image forward, which it can also use to teleport to the image's current position. Or it can open a dimensional rift, which dazes enemies nearby. When damaged, afflicted enemies will release a spark that homes in on another target, dealing damage equal to whatever amount was dealt to them. And lastly, there's Black Hole Sun's signature attack, where it opens a portal to the sun to fire an irradiating beam of solar energy to melt its opponents. Ash's name as a stand would be Smooth Criminal, named after the song of the same name by American singer Michael Jackson. A stand skilled in the art of stealth and assassination, Smooth Criminal's abilities allow it to eliminate its enemies swiftly and silently. Its main method of doing so is releasing a smoke screen, which renders it invisible for a short time, during which Smooth Criminal can sneak up on its target and dispose of them with its personal blade. In Warframe, Ash doesn't have a personalized blade, but in this context, I imagine that Smooth Criminal's blade would look something similar to the stand Hanged Man's. Smooth Criminal can also take out multiple enemies at once with its Shadow Clones ability. First, it scans the area, marking any foes that come within its line of sight, after which 2 Shadow Clones are summoned, which teleport to each enemy marked, executing them one by one. Lastly, as a range attack, Smooth Criminal can fire deadly shurikens. Ember's name as a stand would be Pyromania, named after the album of the same name by English rock band Def Leppard. As its name suggests, Pyromania's abilities center around fire, much like the stand Magician's Red. Pyromania has various means of immolating its foes, such as throwing fireballs, releasing a wave of fire around itself which strips the enemy's defenses, and summoning meteorites from the sky, much like the stand Planet Waves. Pyromania can also use its flames defensively as armor to minimize any incoming damage. As time goes on, the armor grows in strength. Pyromania's other abilities are also stronger as a result. However, its armor becomes weaker whenever it releases its flame waves. Rhino's name as a stand would be Beastie Boy, referencing the American hip-hop group Beastie Boys. A stand boasting immense power and size, Beastie Boy is essentially the first tank stand we've covered, meaning that it's a tough stand that's highly resistant to most attacks. Beastie Boy possesses a lot of physical strength, which allows it to perform attacks such as charging into foes at high speeds, launching them away, and stomping the ground with such force that it causes enemies nearby to be suspended in midair, slowed in time. It can also further strengthen its defenses by hardening its skin, basically making itself invulnerable. However, this protective skin will break if enough damage is sustained. Lastly, Beastie Boy can let out a roar, empowering itself and nearby allies. Banshee's name as a stand would be Sounds of Silence, named after the album of the same name by American folk rock duo Simon and Garfunkel. Sounds of Silence's powers revolve around using, well, sound to put its enemies at a disadvantage. For instance, it can emit sound waves that can detect enemies 20 meters away. This ability also identifies the best body parts to strike them, amplifying the damage taken when hit. Sounds of Silence can also surround itself with a 20-meter aura that, when inside, enemies will become deafened to any sort of noise, even sounds as loud as screams or gunfire. And lastly, Sounds of Silence has methods to attack its foes with sound, such as releasing a shock wave that launches enemies forward and channeling its energy into the ground, causing quakes that severely damage nearby foes. Loki's name as a stand would be Metal, named after the album of the same name by English rock band Pink Floyd. A long-range stand adept in the art of mischief, Metal is able to dispatch its foes by deceiving them through various means, utterly leaving them vulnerable and easy to strike. To fool its enemies, Metal can either turn invisible, creates a holographic decoy of itself to draw the enemy's attention, and instantly swap positions with any target in its sight. Lastly, whether caught or not, metal can disrupt any sort of mechanical weapon, or any type of machinery for that matter, permanently leaving it out of action, and thus disarming the enemy of it entirely, forcing them to resort to melee combat. Vauban's name as a stand would be Balls to the Wall, named after the album of the same name by the German metal band Accept. Quite an innovative stand, Balls to the Wall mainly relies on its gadgets to eliminate its enemies, as well as support itself and its allies. And like its name would suggest, pretty much all of its contraptions are ball-shaped. Among Balls to the Wall's vast arsenal of robotics are drones that latch onto enemies before stunning them with electric bursts, beacons that call in a powerful orbital laser, a containment field that can ensnare targets within its radius before collapsing into a singularity, thereby compressing all their bodies together in a large mass, and mines that can perform a variety of tasks, like tethering enemies in place, releasing flechettes in all directions that deal heavy damage, propelling allies and enemies forward at a fast speed, and granting allies extra power. Nekros' name as a stand would be Fear the Reaper, a twisted reference to the song Don't Fear the Reaper by the American rock band Blue Oyster Cult. If you couldn't surmise from its name, Fear the Reaper's power stems from the dead, whether it be raising the dead, or, for lack of a better term, consuming their corpse with its power, not actually eating the corpse. To be more specific, Fear the Reaper's main ability is summoning shadow minions of those it's killed in the past to fight for it. And yes, that includes stand users. Another attack it can do is literally punch the soul out of its opponent, essentially using it as a projectile to damage other foes nearby. If the punched enemy is close to death, they are also reincarnated as a shadow. Lastly, Fear the Reaper can use its power to magically devour the corpses of its victims to heal and further strengthen itself. The Stalker's name as a stand would be The Stranger, referencing the album of the same name by American singer Billy Joel. Little is known about The Stranger, only that its main goal is to eliminate all the stand users, i.e. Warframes. It was manifested some unknown amount of time after its user's death, created from its users yearning for vengeance against the stand users. The Stranger possesses some sentience, having taken on a life of its own to fulfill its purpose. As for its powers, its core aspect is that it's completely immune to most stand special abilities, making them resort to more conventional means of damage. In which case, the Stranger is adept in hand-to-hand combat, and can perform abilities such as teleporting, trapping and pulling its opponents in, and absorbing all incoming damage to release it all in an explosion. In addition, there's also the Acolytes, a group of 6 posthumous stands that seek to serve the Stranger for some unknown reason. All of them are essentially dark counterparts of certain stands, sharing their appearance and abilities. First, there's Hysteria, named after the Def Leppard album, a stand that attacks its targets up close with its claws. Next is Disturbed, named after the metal band of the same name, a stand armed with a sniper rifle and able to summon drones to attack. Then there's Paranoid, named after the Black Sabbath album, a stand armed with a bladed whip, which it can use to immobilize its opponent in the air. Up next is Creeping Death, named after the Metallica song, a stand armed with a scythe and can summon shadow minions to attack. Then there's Hurts So Good, named after the John Cougar song, a stand armed with 2 pistols and can cast water-based abilities. Finally, there's Psycho Killer, named after the Talking Heads song, a stand armed with both a rapier and claw, and can prevent stand users from using their abilities.